Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Iskon Gurvind ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Kodananda Maharshi ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. There's no family business is finished?
No, nectar of devotion.
Oh, nectar of devotion. This arrows, it's just the blue one, right? Nectar of Devotion. Reading from Nectar of Devotion, the preface. Bhakti Ras, however, the mellow relish in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, does not finish with the end of life. It continues perpetually and is therefore called Amrita, and that which does not die but exists eternally. This is confirmed in all Vedic literatures. Bhagavad Gita says that a little advancement in bhakti ras can save the devotee from the greatest danger, that of missing the opportunity for human life. The rasas derived from our feelings in social life, in family life, or in the greater family life of altruism, philanthropy, nationalism, socialism, communism, etc., do not guarantee that one's next life will be as a human being. We prepare our next life by our actual activities in the present life. A living entity is offered a particular type of body as a result of his actions in the present body. These activities are taken into account by a superior authority known as Deva, or the authority of God. This Deva is explained in Bhagavad Gita as the prime cause of everything, and in Srimad Bhagavatam it is stated that a man takes his next body by Deva Netrena, which means by the supervision of the authority of the Supreme. In an ordinary sense, Deva is explained as destiny. Deva's supervision gives us a body selected from 8,400,000 forms. The choice does not depend on our selection, but is awarded to us according to our destiny. If our body at present is engaged in the activities of Krishna consciousness, then it is guaranteed that we will have at least a human body in our next life. A human being engaged in Krishna consciousness, even if unable to complete the course of Bhakti Yoga, takes birth in the higher divisions of human society so that he can automatically further his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, all bona fide activities in Krishna consciousness are amrita or permanent. This is the subject matter of the nectar of devotion. Nectar Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, text 23 to 24. Are we still saying the Sanskrit? Okay. This is the last part of the last day of this verse. Just the translation. Okay. Shipradu Vacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Nivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktischen Navalakshana Kriyata Bhagavati Adha Tanmanye Ditamuttamam Shiparadu Vacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandadasyam Sakhyam Atmani Vedanam Iti Pusarpita Vishnu Bhaktischen Navalakshana Kriyate Bhagavati Adha Tanmanye Ditamuttamam Shiparadu Vacha Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyamatmani Vedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktischen Navalakshana Priyata Bhagavati Adha Tanmaneditamuttamam. Translation. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship, 16 types of paraphernalia, offering praise to the Lord, becoming his friend, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're on to Atma Nivedanam. The word Atma for by its master. When cared for by its master, a cow is not in anxiety over its maintenance. Such a cow is always devoted to its master, and it never acts independently, but only for the master's benefit. Some devotees therefore consider dedicating the body to the Lord to be Atmanivedanam. And as stated in the book known as Bhakti Vivek, sometimes dedication of the soul to the Lord is called Atmanivedanam. The best examples of Atmanivedanam are found in Bali and Ambarish Maharaj. Atmanivedanam is also found sometimes found behavior of Rukmini Devi at Dwarka. So this is a culmination of the 8-9 processes of devotion. Atmanivedanam is full surrender to all other eight devotional service. Really, bring us to the point of this center. Prabhupada gives a definition of Atmanivedanam. He says it means offering Krishna everything, one's body, mind, intelligence, whatever may possess. So the 3 examples here in this are Bali Maharaj and Ambarish Maharaj and Rukmini. Sometimes it's considered Rukmini. So of course there are many other examples in the Bhagavatam of devotees like the Brajvasis, but here it's considered that Bali Maharaj achieved perfection through this process of complete surrender. So it's much easier to surrender fully to spiritual life when there isn't much to hold on to. You know, for example, sannyas is like the renounced order of life, and abandoning everything that we think that's going to hold us down. If we abandon anything that will hold us down, then that is like, it's easier for us to practice spiritual life. You know, you can have all the money in the world, but if you're constantly worried about it, then there's no peace of mind. So it's like a distraction. So anything that's a distraction in spiritual life, we should, you know, renounce. I remember Prabhupada saying that real renunciation means that if Krishna wants us to renounce our palace, to live under a tree, we should be prepared to do that. At the same time, if he wants to renounce a tree to live in a palace, then we should do that. So renunciation, we want actually what Krishna wants us to do. So Bali Maharaj wasn't a sannyasi or a renounce order. He was a great king. And actually the history is in the next canto, the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. And so Bali Maharaj was actually the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. So he's born in the same family of Prahlad Maharaj. So he's the grandson of Hiranyakashipu. So he was still born in his family of Hiranyakashipu. So there was some friction between the demigods and the demons, you know, and there's a whole history of what happened, the churning of the milk, and the getting the nectar, and the demons wanted to, but the demigods got the nectar, so they were actually quite upset. So then they approached Bali Maharaj, they tried to defeat Maharaj again, and all the demigods tried to defeat Bali Maharaj, but still they couldn't. So instead, Bali Maharaj managed to take over Indra, take control of the whole universe, planets. So he was actually in control of the universe. So Bali Maharaj was so powerful that they could defeat Indra and all the demigods. So we see Bali Maharaj, he was actually the commander of the demons. So we can he's got everything, all the wealth, not just one kingdom, but the whole universe under dominion. So demigods again were in the IT. They didn't have a kingdom, so to pray for direct. The Lord appeared to Vamanadev to help the demigods regain their kingdom back. So Vamanadev is like the form of war Brahmana. So Maharaj was doing a great yoga at the time, and Vamanadev went to see Bali Maharaj. As soon as Maharaj seen Vamanadev, he knew there was something special about this personality. He was very effulgent, and So Bali asked, so Vamanadev Balaji tried to take 3 steps of land and of his own steps. And Sukracharya, this of Bali knew that this is asking everything about Bali Maharaj. He was very personally, his personal interest was with Bali Maharaj loved everything, then he was everything too, because he wouldn't have anything, because he was dependent on Bali Maharaj's narration for all the things he was doing. He was very motivated, and so he says he forbade Bali Maharaj to give charity to Vamanadev. He said, "This is Lord Vishnu, he's going to take everything away from you, so don't do it." But Bali Maharaj, because he's the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, he's a devotee. Internally, he's a devotee. Externally, he may be in the family demon, but he's devoted and he's very charitable. And he thought, well, I've given my word, give charity to the Brahmana, the supreme Lord. That's even more reason for me to give charity to the Lord. So he gives his oath to Vamanadev that whatever you want, I will, 3 steps of land. Why are you only asking for 3 steps of land? I can give you planets, I can give you anything you want. I can give you, it's nobody in, it's like going to a millionaire and asking for 3 pence, it's like, it's an insult to the millionaire, isn't it? It's like, why are you only asking for 3 pence, So it's like, he's got everything in the whole universe under his control. So for him to give 3 steps of land, it seems like, well, what's the point of that? I can give you anything. I can give you planets. So, but Vamanadev wanted to stress, to teach that, the Varnashram is, the system is to actually to help us control our senses, so we can, of life. So he said these special, very unique words to Bali Maharaj. My dear king, even in entirety of whatever there may be in the 3 worlds, to satisfy one's senses cannot satisfy a person whose senses are uncontrolled. So he's actually pointing out to Bali Maharaj that, you can have everything in the worlds, but if your senses are not satisfied, if you're not actually in a control, if your senses are not controlled, then no matter what you have, you're never going to be satisfied. So Vamanadev was trying to show, he was trying to give a special favor to Bali Maharaj to take away all his material possessions, because that was actually what was holding him back. Because Bali Maharaj although he was a devotee, he was attached to material possessions. So Bali Maharaj wanted to, Vamanadev wanted to do a special favor on Bali Maharaj to take away his possessions. So Bali Maharaj gave him 3 steps of land. So the first step, Vamanadev expressed himself and he could half the universe. So the second step, over the second half of the universe, systems, right up to Ramaloka. And then he said the third step. So he says, well, enough the universe, the way I'm the 5th step, you've promised me 3 steps of land, there's no birds left. So then Bali realized that, all his possessions, the possessor is still, Bali Maharaj himself is the possessor of all the possessions, So he's donated things, he's given everything to Bali Maharaj, all his possessions, but he has himself. So then he offered his head to Vamanadev. He says, please put a footstep on my head. So this way, there's a whole, so there was a whole series in the 8th canto describing this. But we can see that Bali Maharaj risked losing everything to surrender to Lord Vamanadev. Now, he knew that he was going to lose everything because Shukracharya told him. So he wasn't thinking, oh, what am I going to do my family, my possessions. He didn't hesitate to give everything to Vamnadev. And in return, it's not that Balimaraj surrendered everything, and in return he didn't get anything. But actually, in return, Vamnadev gave him the planet Sutala, which is actually the lower planetary system, but actually more opulent than the heavenly planets. And the Lord appeared as his doorman, and he accepted that position of a doorman to protect Balimaraj in his abode. So this is the result of surrendering to the Lord. Wasn't that he did lose everything, but he actually gained the Lord's association, protection. The Lord's person became his doorman, became his servant. So surrendering to Krishna actually conquered that. We surrendered to Krishna and we lose everything, but actually we gain the greatest. The greatest thing is Krishna. So although Krishna is proprietor of everything and he's the enjoyer of everything, when we fully surrender to Krishna, then he becomes conquered by us. And because he's subordinate to love, Krishna becomes conquered by that love. So in this case, Bali Maharaj, he gave everything, all his possessions, and in return, Krishna became his doorman. But as long as we consider things by material calculation, that I'm giving this much to Krishna, and I've only have this much left. If we have this kind of mentality, then we will be full of fear. But as we see Bali Maharaj, he was fearless. He doesn't think, oh, what am I going to have left if I give this? He just abandoned everything and gave everything to Krishna. So that's why he achieved perfection through this Atma-nivedanam. He'd give body, mind, and soul to Krishna. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the last chapter, Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tam sarva papi mokshami masutraha. So masutra means do not worry, do not fear. So Krishna is saying, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So Krishna is reassuring us. He says, do not fear, do not worry, don't hesitate. I'll deliver you from all sinful reactions. Just surrender to me. But how much are you actually prepared to take that? How much are we afraid to surrender? Like when we first come to join the temple, it's like, what will my parents think? We become afraid. What are my friends going to think? What are they going to say? Are they going to think I'm crazy? I become a Hare Krishna. We're afraid of so many things. But once we surrender, Krishna takes charge. He helps us. He gives us so much more than we could ever get in the material world. There's also there's the example of Maharaj Ambarish. Maharaj Ambarish was a Raja Rishi. He was so surrendered to Krishna. He was in complete control of his senses. Everything he did. There's a nice verse in the 9th canto of Bhagavatam that describes Maharaj Ambarish's surrender. First of all, he fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. He engaged his words in the abode of the Lord, his in cleansing the flow of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotees, his nostrils in smelling the flowers offered to the Lord, his tongue in tasting Krishna Prasad and glorifying the Lord, his legs in traveling holy places and temples of the Lord, his head in offering obeisance to the Lord, his desires the desires of the Lord. So this is he's known as a Matpara devotee of the Lord, and because he's in complete control of senses, then when he was insulted by Durvasa Muni came to he actually silently tolerated it all, and he became emerged victorious because he was in complete control of his senses by this process of Atma-nivedanam. So if we're actually following this level of surrender, then we will also be able to talk so many things and so many challenges that come our way, because we're totally dependent on Krishna. Like it's described here that in the purport, Prabhupada says, such a devotee is like a cow that's cared for by its master. When cared for by its master, a cow is not in anxiety over its maintenance. Such a cow is always devoted to its master and it never acts independently, but only for the master's benefit. So a cow is completely dependent on the master. It doesn't have any other means of maintenance. So it's totally devoted to the master and it's totally dependent on the master. So this is surrender. You know, a devotee isn't independent, thinking himself independent of Krishna's will or Krishna's desires. He's totally dependent on Krishna and wants to follow whatever Krishna wants, just surrenders to whatever Krishna wants us to do. So this is actually how we should be, like the 6 symptoms of surrender. Can anyone see 6 symptoms of surrender? Anyone know them?
Krishna will provide he within, having that thing, and taking things that are favorable in bhakti and discarding things which are not favorable in bhakti. The finally, Atman Nivedanam, complete surrender, and is it
And
like
humility.
meek and humble?
Yeah. So to accept what's favorable for our devotional service, to reject what's unfavorable, to accept the Lord as our protector, the Lord as our maintainer, and self-surrender and humility. These are the 6 symptoms of surrender. So if we're like here it says, like the cow is totally dependent on the Lord maintaining, the master maintaining it, totally dependent on that kind of no independence, and accepting master as protector. So this is actually full surrender. We don't really think about our maintenance, think about our you know, how we're going to get our daily, you know, how we're going to function in the material world. Krishna will look after us. He's looking after even the animals who have no consciousness of God, looking after the ant, looking after the elephant, not thinking, you know, how they're not thinking that there's a God in control, but still Krishna's maintaining them. So Krishna looks after all living entities as they're all his parts, and especially for those who are totally surrendered to him, totally dependent on him. Surely he will look after them too. So we can think, oh, what about what future word about this? Krishna is after every living entity, and so he can look after the devotees too. Like Vishvambar means he's the maintainer of the universe. That's a name for Lord Chaitanya. So, you know, we can only do so much with our limited power, but Krishna can do anything. He can supply us with anything. He's in complete control. So when we accept Krishna's control, that actually nothing is happening without Krishna's control. He's actually the one who's giving everyone what they're due. Then we just accept that protection of Krishna. We accept that Krishna will look after us in whatever circumstances that we may go through. And third personality that's described, that's sometimes found in the behavior of Rukmini Devi at Dwarka, then there's a description in the Krishna book of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam where Rukmini wanted to marry Krishna, but her father her brother Rukmini had arranged her marriage to Shishupal. But she sent a letter to Krishna asking him to kidnap her. And in the letter she said, she was so determined that she said that she was prepared to dedicate her life to performing severe austerities and penances, fasting, going throughout without bodily comfort, and in this lifetime, and if not lifetime after lifetime, to gain Krishna's favor. So Prabhupada says in the Krishna book that such determination is the only price for purchasing Krishna's favor. That we prepared, that we should be so strongly determined to be Krishna conscious, so like Rukmini, that we're prepared to perform any type of a sacrifice, austerity, penance, going out without comforts, lifetime after lifetime to get Krishna's favor. So this is another symptom of surrender, that we're prepared to do anything to gain Krishna's favor. So from all these examples, and also, of course, the gopis of Raj, the Vrajvasis, the gopis are example of the highest surrender. They gave up their homes, their families, their fame, even their honor of being religious, chaste women to please Krishna. So they understood that everything belongs to Krishna. Therefore, the gopis, they're the personified ultimate renunciation. And Krishna became so indebted that he says, Na parayaham, I cannot repay you for your spotless service. So Krishna becomes indebted to the gopis for their selfless surrender, because they didn't consider anything for themselves. They gave up everything, and actually exemplified what Krishna says, Sarva Dharma Parityaja. They gave up all types of dharma to please Krishna. So they abandoned everything. So these are such great examples of surrender to Krishna, and we can only follow in their footsteps. We can't really imitate these great personalities, but we should try to follow in their footsteps in the sense that what was their mood? We may not be able to abandon everything and just surrender to Krishna or Bali Maharaj, but the mood is that they want to please Krishna, they want to what Krishna, surrender everything to please Krishna. That's the point. The point is to please Krishna. So it's not like Ambarish Maharaj, he had everything. He had a whole kingdom, wealth, fortune, fame, everything. Krishna didn't ask him to give it up, but everything he did was to please Krishna. So Bali Maharaj, everything, all his kingdom to please Krishna, and we have Ambarish Maharaj, who still had everything. Krishna didn't take anything away from him. He still had everything, but still he was pleasing Krishna by his surrender, because he was using all his senses in Krishna's service. So both are symptoms of surrender. Both are examples of surrender. So this is these are all examples of how to surrender to Krishna. Is there any comments or yes?
Ambarish Maharaj and that ninth canto, that very sweet shlokas in ninth canto, Prabhupada also quotes many times. If we see in that word meaning, like in the ninth canto, in that shloka where Ambarish Maharaj says, "Na Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindya," in that word meaning for surrender, sort of, Prabhupada writes, if take shelter of a devotee such as Prahlad. I just found it a bit interesting. We are here reading the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, Atma Nivedanam, and like here Ambarish in terms of like surrender.
Yes, so surrender to Krishna means to surrender to his representative, isn't it? To a pure devotee of the Lord. So, actually, I read another part of one of my Guru Maharaj's books, and it's described that the reason Vamnadev the reason that Vamnadev became the doorman Bali Maharaj wasn't so much because of Bali Maharaj surrendered, it's because he was connected to Prahlad Maharaj. Because Prahlad Maharaj is a pure devotee, because Bali Maharaj was a grandson of Prahlad Maharaj, that's the real reason why Vamnadev became subordinate to Bali Maharaj. If we can connect to a pure devotee of the Lord and we get their blessings, their mercy, we get, it's like kripa, special mercy. Bali Maharaj was a kripa. Sadhana, didn't do any sadhana. He was a kripa siddha because of his connection to Prahlad Maharaj, because he had that special mercy from Prahlad. He had benediction from Prahlad Maharaj, blessings from Prahlad Maharaj. So because blessings of pure devotee, it can help us very quickly make advance. So that's why Prabhupada is stressing this. Like surrendering to a pure devotee like Maharaj is actually, it's amazing that's all connected, isn't it?
I was just wondering, with the surrender, sometimes when we're faced with surrender, we kind of see it as all or nothing. I either completely or don't do anything, and we need to break it down. We think sometimes we're faced the well, it's almost a terrible thing. It was a terrible fear that we're going to have to fully surrender. And so because of that, rather than do any surrender, we don't surrender at all. Sometimes with the mind, we have to kind of trick the mind and say, well, okay, we won't completely do all this, but we'll just do a little bit of it, knowing that once we start to do it, that we can actually do more. So sometimes the way the mind plays tricks on us is it presents this kind of almost impossible task. We think, well, there's no way I can do that, because we project where it's going to be, Whereas we could also project some positive, that I can do this, and I can start by making this small step. Okay, just like with Vamanadev, he only asked for 3 small steps. So in the same way, we can do the same with our mind. Instead of saying that we're going to be going through the whole universe, we're just going to take 3 small steps, And then when we take those 3 small steps, then it leads to actually breaking through all the false ego and all the false idea of thinking that we can't do something,
Yeah, so like these examples are like extreme examples, Bhagavatam gives a lot of extreme examples. So it's not like, unless we do this, we're not surrendered. No, there's a process of surrender. So it's a gradual process, the process of bhakti yoga. So it's a step-by-step process. And Krishna gives, so many ways to surrender to him. So he says, always think of me and become my devotee. But if you can't do that, then follow the rules and regulations of bhakti yoga and develop a desire to attain me. And if you can't do that, then you can work for me. And if you can't work for me, then offer the fruits of your work for me. And if you can't do that, perform some sacrifice or some charity work so that you can get purified and become selfless. So all these are ways by which Krishna is encouraging us to surrender. And as much as we surrender, Krishna reciprocates with us. So to the proportion we surrender, then Krishna reciprocates. So Krishna says, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So this is the process. And Krishna, like, he makes the rules, but he can also break them if he wants. If he wants to show special mercy, then he can. But in general, we follow the rules that Krishna makes. And he says, okay, as you surrender unto me, I reward you. So there's a nice verse described Buddhananda Saraswati Thakur. Yata yata gora padara vinde bhaktim krita punya rasi. So he's saying that as the proportion we surrender to Lord Chaitanya, to Gauranga Mahaprabhu's mission, to that effect, we get the mercy of Srimati Radharani. So to the proportion we surrendering to Lord Chaitanya, then we get the mercy of Srimati Radharani. That's the way it is. So if we want Srimati Radharani's mercy, then we get it through Lord Chaitanya. The more we surrender to his mission, the more we surrender to serving him, then it's like we're serving Srimati Radharani to that proportion. So we'll get the mercy of Srimati Radharani, and we'll get her mercy in Vrindavan. You know, that's what it's saying in that verse.
And what does surrender to Lord Chaitanya look like? Because my mind immediately thinks Sankirtan, book distribution.
Yeah.
Is that what it means, or is that?
Yeah, to the mission of Lord Chaitanya, to spreading. Lord Chaitanya wants, you know, holy name to be spread all over the world. He wants conditioned souls to be saved. This is this is his mission. So if we're serving that mission in any form, whether we're, you know, cooking for the devotees, Sankirtan devotees, whether we're serving them, we're going out ourselves to distribute the books, to help conditioned souls, to preaching programs, whatever it is, the whole ISKCON is a Sankirtan movement. It's a Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah, what helps me, I mean, you know, I've been going out for 4 years, apart from the pandemic break, practically every day, and it's still difficult to do. So yesterday I was there, and it was that stormy that we bought some umbrellas on the web because we forgot our umbrellas, and we were just watching people trying to hold their umbrellas, and they were just like turned inside out. They were getting dragged along the road by them, you know, and we were thinking this is just going to be impossible. And then I was just reflecting on that class by Kartik Chandra that we had at the end of the Sankirtan Festival, the manna. And he says the first thing is Mahapunya. Even if they don't take a book, even if they just see you doing Sankirtan, he said, even if they slam the door in your face, but they've seen you, they get a human birth in the next life. And then Danya, they get some treasure, they actually take the book. And then Swasti Ayana, they read and apply the book. And then finally Shubham, they go back to Goloka. So sometimes it's a bit overwhelming because we're just trying to think of going straight away back to Goloka, you know, trying to get people to go back to Goloka. But all we have to do is Mahapunya. We just have to touch them with the book, the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. And every person we come in contact with is getting a human birth. So that we're laying the foundations right now. So all these people will be coming back in 80 years when they've died, all with the intention of going on from where they've left off now. So when I was thinking like that, I was thinking, well, I can definitely do that. And then that led into so many other things, you know.
Yes, we, you know, the Lord never, you know, he doesn't miss, you know, he doesn't like not notice all these austerities and sacrifices that we make to distribute, you know, Krishna consciousness. So we may not see the result immediately, but, you know, it's all adding up in our spiritual bank balance, and eventually we'll get Radharani's mercy. We've given our life to his mission. So this is actually waiting for us, you know. So we're just very fortunate, and other by context.
Like in this Bali Maharaj's pastime, so Lord Vamandev asked 3 steps, and in the first 2 steps he covers everything. Then just physically I wonder, isn't Bali Maharaj himself covered also in the first 2 steps? And isn't, like, sorry, a bit stupid question, but isn't his head not covered in the first 2 steps then?
Yes, so that's why, in one sense, the reason he was arrested, because he hadn't fulfilled his promise. There was no place for the 3rd step. But Bali Maharaj thought that this is, the universe is my possession. I'm the possessor, so I still haven't given myself to the Lord, you know. So my body is still there, you know, my head is there for the 3rd step, but still he got arrested. He didn't fulfill his promise, sort of thing. So this whole pastime, and in one sense, the Lord actually describes that the Lord put so much, he tested so much, and nobody could actually survive those tests. But the Lord helped Bali Maharaj to survive all those tests, severe tests, to glorify him, because, you know, he was trying to still maintain his truthfulness, that he wanted to fulfill his vow and his promise to the Lord. So it's amazing, actually, the pastime, because he was humiliated. He was cursed by his spiritual master. He was humiliated in front of everybody, but still he wouldn't give up his truthfulness. So in that sense, he actually did, in one sense, fulfill his vow, but in another sense he didn't, if you get what I mean. He wanted 3 pieces of land. He didn't fulfill the land part. So he gave his 3rd step for his head. Where's the land? 3 pieces of land. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's why the Lord arrested him. That's why he was arrested, and all these things happened in the assembly. Yeah, I think it was either his sister or daughter. She became Putna, or was it Surpana? No, Putna. I think it was Putna in our next line. No, it was this one. Yeah. Because when Bali Maharaj first came, then she had like a maternal affection for Bali Maharaj, for Vamnadev, but when Vamnadev arrested Bali Maharaj and was ready to do all these things, then she became really upset and angry. So then this is the Putna. She's like the maternal aspect, and she wanted to kill Bali Maharaj. So she wanted to kill him, you see. So she became Putna in the next life.
All right. I'm making access to the other books that are there, the Prabhupada has mentioned we should read in due course. And then we get more of a fuller idea of what's going on in the pastime. We find out that this person, nobody's in the pastime by accident. There's some history, like even the washerman was somebody, and that's how he got that position, and the flower vendor. And then as we read more, we become more aware, But I suppose also the danger is that we, first of all, we should read all Srila Prabhupada's books, and then once we've studied them, then we can look into the other aspects.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking that Krishna's given us all free will, so he doesn't force us to surrender to him. Every one of us, every soul has the minute independence to love Krishna or not to love Krishna. He has free will, and Krishna never takes that away from the jiva. So we always have that free will to surrender to Krishna and not to surrender to him. So it's not like, now I'm a devotee, that's it. We always have the free will, even when we're in so-called next to the Lord, we still have the free will to serve him or not to serve him. It's like, so that surrender is always, we can still always surrender to Krishna or not surrender to him.
Srila Prabhupada says that any one of the 9 processes are sufficient to achieve perfection. But to go back to Goloka, do we have to practice something in them?
Well, all the processes are for that purpose, is to bring us to the point of full surrender, isn't it?
So if you went to do Atmanivedana, could you still go to Vaikuntha?
Well, these personalities, they attain perfection through one process, like each one, like Hanuman attained perfection through Dasi, Arjuna through Sakyam. So, they did attain perfection, but it's generally not for, like in general, we need to perform the process of Shravanam Kirtan to get to, because they're special examples of personalities that attain perfection through just one thing, but we're not on that level. So we need to practice starting from Shravanam Kirtan, hearing and chanting of Krishna's names, and then we can come to the point of surrendering. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I heard that Krishna's reluctant to give, even if you've achieved bhava, he doesn't. He's reluctant to give prema because then he has to surrender Nivadana to you. So just like we're also hesitant because we know that when we do Nivadana, that means we give everything. And we're a little afraid maybe to do that, to complete surrender. We want to stay in our little comfort zone. So just as we're hesitant, that if I do that, if I put myself completely under Krishna's will, and I just have to do whatever he orders me, maybe I look at some of the pastimes and see what the pure devotees go through, and you think, oh, I don't think I could handle that, So we're hesitant. But also Krishna's hesitant, because if we do give everything, and then he gives us prema, then also he has to surrender to us and Nivadana.
Well, in one sense, that could be there, that's there. That's gonna put we still got 5 minutes. Try it.
Like, how do we understand? Here we say, Prabhupada writes, like, Bali Maharaj, he was given such a task and so much, like, he surrendered, he exemplified what surrender means, and Atma Nivedan, his name comes. And then another, we say, like, no one surrendered like the gopis. So what is the difference between the surrender of the gopis and the surrender of Bali Maharaj? What is lacking in Bali Maharaj's surrender that makes the gopis surrender kind of the better, say, than the surrender of Bali Maharaj?
Do you have an answer to your own question? There's different degrees of surrender, different levels, The gopis had pure prema. Bali Maharaj didn't have that. Well, Bali Maharaj also, I was just thinking, he still wanted to preserve his truthfulness, his like some sort of honor, that, he's kept his word, But the gopis, they gave up, even religious codes and and chased to the husband, everything, please Krishna. So it was like all the moral dharma, all these different, there's women's dharma, everything, they gave it up to please Krishna. So it's like, it's very, very, it's much higher, I would think, than, what Bali Maharaj gave up. He was still like trying to maintain his truthfulness and his honor in a different way, So in that sense, the gopis and Krishna himself says, "I cannot repay you for your saltless service." So Naparayaham, he doesn't say that to Bali Maharaj. He becomes his doorman, but he doesn't say Naparayaham, "I cannot repay you." So Krishna sees the surrender of the gopis the highest. So Krishna is a judge, not us. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, shall we stop? Thank you for your interaction. And so we finally finished this verse. And yeah, it was such an amazing verse and such an amazing purport. Prabhupada can see that he gave so much in this purport. It's because it's so important, such an important verse. Okay, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Iskon Guruvin ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanand.
Hari Hari Bol.
Her Grace Jagannatha Priya Devi Dasi ki.
Jai.
Sadhu Sant ki jai.